It's Wednesday, October 8th, 2025, and welcome to the latest happenings inside our federal machine. President Trump just held a roundtable event with other officials where they discussed techniques and strategies for dismantling Antifa, including those who financially support the international terrorist organization. The man who maliciously started the Pacific Palisades fire is finally under arrest, and the Justice Department gives their take on the news. Also, the Biden administration apparently blocked the CIA from distributing intelligence to officials regarding Hunter Biden's business dealings in Ukraine. Hamas and Israel agreed to a complete ceasefire, and Israel agreed to a 70% withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. Without surprise, the Democrats continue to keep the government partially shut down, most likely to pander for the upcoming No Kings protest and for political campaign farming for the midterms. The violence and political rhetoric against federal agents and agencies continues across Deep Blue America, and the Veterans Administration says they broke the all-time record for fully processed benefits claims in a single year. And there's lots more that happened today, so we're just going to dive right in. And if you enjoyed the video, please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel if you have a quick sec. And if you decide to leave a comment, I might just read it on the next episode. And by the way, everything in the video was posted within the last 24 hours or so. And before I get started, just to let you know, every article that you will see in the video, it will be linked in the description below, just in case I don't mention it. Usually I mention it like 1,000 times each video, every time that I open up an article. So I'm going to try to mention that less often because I know that gets a little annoying probably. So anyway, we're going to start right here with the New York Post. President Trump says he's considering a trip to Egypt this weekend to join Israel and Hamas peace talks in Sharm el-Sheikh. Let's take a watch right here. Uh-oh. Hold on, just one sec. I forgot I have to get my Brave browser audio going. All right, let's see if that does the trick. That's the second time I've done that this week.
Toward the end of the week.
Here we go.
Maybe on Sunday, actually. I may go there sometime toward the end of the week. Maybe on Sunday, actually. And we'll see, but there's a very good chance negotiations are going along very well. We're dealing with Hamas and many of the countries. As you know, we have all of the Muslim countries are included. All of the Arab countries are included. Very rich countries and some that are not so rich, but just about everybody's included. It's never happened before. Nothing like that's happened before. And our final negotiation, as you know, is with Hamas. And it seems to be going well, so we'll let you know.
All right, man, it's a peace in the Middle East. We'll see. And I do have an update to this. This was 2 hours ago. Let me just refresh this real quick. We've got a Truth Social post from the president. This was posted by Secretary Marco Rubio about an hour ago. I am very proud to announce that Israel and Hamas have both signed off on the first phase of our peace plan. This means that all of the hostages will be released very soon, and Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed-upon line as the first steps toward a strong, durable, and everlasting peace. All parties will be treated fairly. This is a great day for the Arab and Muslim world, Israel, all surrounding nations, and the United States of America. And we thank the mediators from Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey who worked with us to make this historic and unprecedented event happen. Blessed are the peacemakers. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. And this is from 3 hours ago. This was the moment that Secretary Rubio whispered in his ear that it sounds like a deal has been made. So breaking news, quote, I was just given a note by the Secretary of State saying that we are very close to a deal in the Middle East, and they're going to need to be pretty quickly, says President Trump. I'm not sure if that was a typo or what. I mean, I'm sure he just said it off the cuff right after he whispered in his ear, so let's listen.
Criminal conspiracy.
Okay. I'm just given...
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I was just given a note by the Secretary of State saying that we're very close to a deal in the Middle East, and they're going to need me pretty quickly, so I will take a couple of more questions.
Okay, all right. So they're going to need me pretty quickly. All right. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was misreading that or if it was a typo or what. All right. Well, excellent news. Definitely good news. And this comes from RT. Israel and Hamas agreed on a complete ceasefire in Israeli withdrawal from 70% of Gaza. Hostage/prisoner swap to occur simultaneously. Sky News Arabia with more details on the deal. And I believe they're referencing this. Israel and Hamas agreed to first phase of Trump's deal. News Nation. Some hostages to be swapped for Palestinian prisoners in the next 48 hours. And there's further negotiations that are ongoing. So from Kelly Mayer at Kelly Mayer News, Israel and Hamas have reached an agreement for the first phase of President Trump's Gaza peace deal, which would entail the return of some of the hostages and prisoner exchanges. A source with direct knowledge of the negotiations tells me that this part of the deal could be announced by tonight or tomorrow morning. The actual exchange of hostages could happen in the next 48 hours, likely at the weekend, I'm told. That's when the president said he could be visiting the region. Negotiations are still happening around other elements. So that's the latest we got so far. And I'll move on to the next thing. So this is with regard to the roundtable on Antifa, which I believe I'm going with the title of this video on. And this is the entire discussion. I think it went over an hour, didn't it?
Probably.
Yeah, it went an hour and 15 minutes. I might just play just a minute or two of his opener, but I've got other clips. I got highlights. I got Kash Patel, Secretary Kristi Noem, and there's some other officials who showed up at the roundtable. So I got quite a few to go through. So, yeah, I figured I'll just play a minute or so of this, but I'm going to repost this right now if you want to check it out on my X account. It's at SPAETHO, or SPAETHON. There's an end at the end. That's my YouTube name. My YouTube name is Spatho. And on my X account, it's Spathon. That's my actual name. But anyway, long story short, that's where you can check it out. Or you could just go straight to the White House, at White House. It'll be on there as well. So let's give this a watch just for a couple of minutes here.
On Sunday, maybe Saturday, maybe a little later than Saturday evening, but that seems to be our schedule. It should be clear to all Americans that we have a very serious left-wing terror threat in our country. Radicals associated with the domestic terror group Antifa that you've heard a lot about lately.
Not just Antifa, though.
I've heard a lot about them for 10 years.
They're just the ones that have been identified.
Other far-left extremists have been carrying out a campaign
a lot of these
violence
radicals, they don't have a name other than Democrat.
Charged with enforcing federal law. In Chicago, anarchists
let's be real, man.
have surveilled
that is what the Democrats are becoming.
At least 4
they are getting
local
extreme.
ICE facilities and posted diagrams
Celebrating
of the buildings
assassinations? Are you
online,
fucking kidding me?
meaning nothing but bad, accompanied by photos of specific ICE agents that they're targeting, one in particular who's a top person and a great patriot. In July, approximately a dozen Antifa-aligned militants stormed the ICE facility in Texas and then lured officers out of the building before firing dozens of rounds at police. They were crazy, frankly, shooting one Texas officer in the neck. And in Portland, Oregon, Antifa thugs have repeatedly attacked our officers and laid siege to federal property in an attempt to violently stop the execution of federal law. Everything we're doing is very lawful. What they're doing is not lawful. And what the governor and the mayor of, as an example, you could say
they try to hide behind the First Amendment.
Certainly of Chicago, it's not lawful what they're doing. They have to be very careful. In addition, 2 weeks ago, a radical left terrorist in Dallas conducted a sniper attack on a local ICE facility, killing 2 people and leaving behind a note that read, "Hopefully this will give ICE agents some real terror."
Fucking governor.
That's bad. This attack came the very same month that Charlie Kirk was assassinated by a far-left extremist who inscribed the words, "Hey, fascist, catch," meaning catch the bullet, onto the bullet shelf itself. The epidemic of left-wing violence and Antifa-inspired terror has been escalating for nearly a decade. At universities, Antifa has organized riotous mobs to attack campus speakers. I see it all the time. And these are agitators, anarchists,
terrorists.
And they're paid.
They're terrorists.
And you'll find that out. You'll be finding it out very soon.
And they're international terrorists.
These people. These are bad people. These are people.
Honestly, I'm surprised that a judge hasn't blocked this yet. Didn't he officially? He signed an executive order declaring them domestic terrorists, I believe. And that was, a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago when he signed that executive order. Surprised that a judge hasn't come out and tried to overturn that yet because of First Amendment reasons. I remember reading about that. Before he even signed the executive order, there were claims that a judge was going to come out and try to put a stop to that. And that's why I was saying Trump should just declare them an international terrorist organization, because that would give the government even more broad powers to go after them, because Antifa did not start in the United States. Antifa doesn't only exist in the United States today. It exists in several countries around the world. And it started in Germany, like back in the 1930s. And it became more prominent. Well, I don't know about more prominent, but it really got its start in the U.S. back in the 1980s. And it's just been moving on up from there. I just think that's really the angle they should take. But maybe he's starting here, and that might be on Trump's battle plans. Maybe he always seems to be at least a few steps ahead of everybody else. So.
People that want to destroy our country, we're not going to let it happen. They've used armed gangs to assault local police in cities nationwide, and they've attacked journalists reporting on their crimes. So the journalists that report on their crimes, don't worry, you're very safe. I hope that's not going to turn you around, but they have been very threatening to people, but we're going to be very threatening to them, far more threatening to them than they ever were with us, and that includes the people that fund them. Probably some of the people I know, some of the people I dine with.
Probably.
But if they do, they're in deep trouble. So we're going to be looking very strongly at the people that are funding these operations. When you see the signs, and they're all made out of a beautiful paper, beautiful, nice, stiff, very expensive paper with beautiful wood handles, all the same color. They come from very expensive printing machines. These are not people that write out their signs in a basement that believe in something. These are paid anarchists. At least three of these courageous journalists have personally been victims of Antifa attacks. And
you know what's interesting is when they look into that, which hopefully they'll do quickly, because I could see that dragging on for years. Once they look into the inner workings of Antifa, financially speaking, that's probably going to very easily connect them with just organizations all over the left, all over the far left, very deeply entrenched in with the Democratic Party. I bet it's going to extend into everything on the left. I'm sure it will.
Has been repeatedly beaten by Antifa thugs for his work in Andy is a very serious person, too, I have to tell you. I've been watching him for a long time. Is Andy here? That's what I thought. Hello, Andy. I thought that was you. You're looking better than you do out on those streets, huh?
Andy, no, right?
You look much better. It's nice to have you. You feel a little safer here, I think, maybe. Well, not that safe, because you have them. You have to worry about that.
Fucking
but thank you very much.
Media.
Andy No has been repeatedly beaten by
that is Andy No.
Including
I believe that's
one
him
assault
right there.
that left him with a brain hemorrhage. Only days ago, Nick Sortor was assaulted in Portland by
Andy
a flag
they've beat the shit out of him,
burning
too.
mob, and we've made it 1 year penalty for inciting riots. We took the
you want to get your learn on about Antifa, go to Andy No. Andy NGO on X. He's constantly reporting on Antifa.
What has happened is when they burn a flag, it agitates and irritates crowds. They've never seen anything like it on both sides. And
dude, I am so glad that President Trump invited Andy No to this table. If there's anybody that should be at the table with regard to Antifa, it's Andy No.
But never passed the courts.
Matter of fact, he was the one who I read initially who mentioned that they're not a domestic terrorist organization. They're an international terrorist organization, and that's really where they should be classifying it. So for him to be in the room during this roundtable, that's extremely important.
This is what they do, is they incite, when you burn an American flag, you incite tremendous violence. We have many examples of it, many examples of it, and it's actually down on tape, and you see things happen that just don't happen unless it's the flag that's burning. Very recently, Katie Davis Court was hit in the face with a flagpole in Portland by an Antifa radical, leaving her with a very blackened eye. So, Katie, thank you very much, and I'd like to
actually on this show, I actually played a video with her talking with someone about it.
Nick,
had a big, nasty black eye.
That was a rough time you went through. I hope you got my little note. I wrote you a note.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. It helped a lot.
Microphone. Oh, Jack Posobiec, he's there. There's Jack Posobiec.
I thought it was terrible, actually. I thought it was terrible. So we'll talk about it a little bit. Under the last administration, the Department of Justice targeted faithful Catholics, Christians, and patriotic parents as domestic extremists. They said, oh, they're extreme because they believe in God. They're extreme because they go to a Catholic church, or evangelicals, where everybody was under the gun. Unless you were a really bad, sick person, then they left you alone. Under the Trump administration, we're going after Antifa criminals, and all who fund and support their campaigns are in serious trouble. And we have a lot of records already, a lot of surprises, a lot of bad surprises. It's people that you would never
Another
think.
thing that Andy knows is going to be invaluable with, because I bet he's gotten to the bottom of a lot of this too.
Congress.
As far as the
It was
financials.
amazing, and she just did it from the heart and the brain, because she's very smart, in all fairness. But she did it from the heart, and she did it an incredible. Everybody was talking about it. She exposed some of these fake senators, these terrible senators, people like Blumenthal that had a phony war record. For 20 years, he talked about it, what a hero he was, and it turned out he never went to Vietnam. For 20 years, he talked about being a hero in Vietnam. Then it was exposed when he said what platoon he was with, and it was exposed that somebody was watching from that particular platoon. They said he was never with us. And then he went out and he cried, and he was ready to drop out of the election. And disgraceful. And then he looks at people like Pam and he starts criticizing her, and she's a patriot. And they ought to do something with that. You know, we have a young congressman that's right now in jail for lying about where he went to college and other things. It was, you know, frankly not good. It was pretty bad. But it was nothing compared to Blumenthal. I mean, what Blumenthal did, he was for 20 years a hero, a great war hero. And then he sits back and, you know, sanctimonious kind of a guy, looks down, how dare you do this to the American public, you know? What a fake. But I thought Pam was incredible yesterday, as well as Secretary Kristi Noem, who's really out there courageously, and I appreciate it, Kristi. Amazing what you're doing.
Yeah, she's just in Portland yesterday or day before.
Really coming up with some great information.
Went out to Chicago last week.
Keep it coming, because there's plenty of it. Deputy Attorney General, one of the best lawyers you'll ever find. Todd Blanche.
All right, anyway, so I'll just go ahead and play the highlights. He's introducing everyone. That's probably going to take 15 minutes by itself. So, again, I reposted if you want to check it out over on the X platform. So this comes from Rapid Response 47. Most of them will be either from the White House or Rapid Response. So this one is going to be FBI Director Kash Patel delivers remarks on Antifa. So let's hear Kash Patel's
Mr. President,
take on it.
The American people gave you a sweeping mandate in your victory in this election cycle, and they demanded safety and security for our citizens. And your administration, with your leadership, has provided us with the resources that we need, which is a whole-of-government approach to go after criminals absolutely everywhere, not just outside of this country, but within this country. And that takes a whole-of-government approach. The interagency seated up here with the Department of Homeland Security, our Attorney General, our Deputy Attorney General, and your White House staffers, including Stephen Miller's leadership, has allowed us to go out there and map out these networks. What we are doing at the FBI is simple. It does not require rocket science. We are following the money.
Yes.
Money never lies.
Yes.
And that's what it's going to take to bring down this network of organized criminal thugs, gangbangers, and yes, domestic terrorists, because that's what they are. They are harming.
You know, it's funny. They use apps like Signal and shit like that to try to stay covert, try to stay under the radar, try to communicate, so that way the feds can be knowledgeable as to what they're up to. But I bet that they're not as good at it as they think they are, especially when you have the tools that the federal government wield, especially with the intelligence community. Not so sure if they're going to stay steps ahead of the government on this one. This is going to be amazing, man.
Everyday citizens in every single one of our communities. And the folks you see here on the right and left, they're some of the bravest men and women we have today. They're reporting the stories live time because the mainstream media won't cover it. They're putting their lives on the line. They're standing up for the flag. The least we can do is stand up for them. So
go back
you have
to 2020.
my thanks.
Watch that shit.
I read more of your stories than I do theirs because you guys are putting out the truth. And we deserve a country where you are protected as equally as they are.
And you know, like Antifa, every time that you go down and where Antifa is, and if you even if you're not a journalist, if you're just some everyday, just regular ass person with a phone, and you're walking around with your phone just live streaming or recording, or if you're just some like nobody YouTuber or something, Antifa will attack you if you start pointing your camera at them because they don't want to be on film at all, because they don't want They don't want the public to see what they're doing.
We in this FBI will go after with the criminals with a vengeance. We will not rest until we find every single seed, money, donor, organization, and funding mechanism that we have. And I want to echo the Secretary's comments
stretch
on
all over the place, man.
Scott Bessent, who's allowing us to map out these networks through their financial criminal activities, which has been going on for decades. And I would like to remind the American public, they built this disease temple of corruption over decades.
Oh, I'm
and
sure.
in 8 short
Absolutely.
months, Mr. President, you have crippled their foundation because of
Probably
your
going back to
leadership
the
here,
60s.
because of the
Antifa,
interagency, because
back
of
to
people
the
like
80s.
Deputy Attorney General Blanche, and because of Attorney General Pam Bondi's fearless leadership to go after criminals wherever they are. They will not be able to hide. They were able to hide and conspire with prior administrations, and we are exposing their corruption from within. And we will go to every single city in this country under Operation Summer Heat and the other operations we are doing at the FBI to bring these criminals to justice. We will arrest every single one of them from whatever perch you sit in, private or public, no matter how your goal or your ambition is. It will be crushed by the Constitution because the American people deserve law and order, and that's what we're going to give you.
And I bet Pamela Bondi, I bet she better do the job that she needs to be doing too. Don't stonewall anything. Don't delay anything as fast as possible. Because look, time is ticking. I mean, 2028 is no guarantee. Hell, even 2026 is no guarantee. It's looking pretty good as far as Republicans encroaching more power in Congress, although we just don't know what the future is going to look like. We have no idea. So I hope they go after this as quickly as humanly possible because, look, I know we all want J.D. Vance to win 2028. There's a pretty good possibility that may be the outcome. And if that's the case, then they can keep rolling on with the investigations and the trials and all that stuff. But I mean, I just hope that they're acting with a strong sense of urgency. So this is from the White House. President Donald J. Trump hosts a roundtable on Antifa. So this might be him just during the opening remarks.
The epidemic of left-wing violence and Antifa-inspired terror has been escalating for...
Okay, yeah, it is. I believe we already saw that, so I'm just going to go to the next one, rapid response. And it's a quote from Trump, probably the same
It should be clear
opening.
to all Americans that we have a very serious left-wing terror threat in our country. Radicals associated with the domestic terror group Antifa that you've heard a lot about lately, and I've heard a lot about them for 10 years. And other far-left extremists have been carrying out a campaign of violence against ICE agents and other officials charged with enforcing federal law. In Chicago, anarchists have surveilled at least 4 local ICE facilities and posted diagrams of the buildings online, meaning nothing but bad, accompanied by photos of specific ICE agents that they're targeting, one in particular who's a top person and a great patriot. In July, approximately a dozen Antifa-aligned militants stormed the ICE facility in Texas and then lured officers out of the building before firing dozens of rounds at police. They were crazy, frankly, shooting one Texas officer in the neck. And in Portland, Oregon, Antifa thugs have repeatedly attacked our officers and laid siege to federal property in an attempt to violently stop the execution of federal law. Everything we're doing is very lawful. What they're doing is not lawful.
All right. Yeah, I believe that was already played, but that's all right. So moving on to the next one, perhaps. Let's see. Under the last administration, Department of Justice targeted faithful Catholics, Christians, patriotic parents as domestic extremists. I believe we already did that too. See, that's the problem. That's why I shouldn't have just started playing from the beginning, because now I don't know
Under the
which
last
ones I played and which ones I
administration, the
haven't.
Department of Justice targeted faithful Catholics, Christians, and patriotic parents as domestic extremists. They said, oh, they're extreme.
Under Biden,
Because they believe
ironically.
in God. They're extreme
Isn't he
because
supposed to
they
be a
go
practicing Catholic?
church or
Yeah, okay.
evangelicals were, everybody was under the gun. Unless you were a really bad, sick person, then they left you alone. Under the Trump administration, we're going after Antifa criminals, and all who fund and support their campaigns are in serious trouble. And we have a lot of records already, a lot of surprises, a lot of bad surprises. It's people that you would never think.
All right, let's go. And from Homeland Security, it is a quote, Secretary Kristi Noem, President Trump and Secretary Noem will never surrender America to criminal illegal aliens and the Antifa domestic terrorists.
Let's not make any mistake. These individuals do not just want to threaten our law enforcement officers, threaten our journalists, and the citizens of this country. They want to kill them. Their agenda is to destroy the American people
100%.
and our way of life.
Yes,
And this
they do.
president is standing in their way. He is stopping them from bringing their death and their destruction to the individual citizens in this country that just want to raise their kids and their grandkids in peace and in safety. Let's not.
Yeah, because right now the government, the federal government, looks a lot weaker than I ever thought that they were, as far as enforcement goes, because they're guarding the building, but still these quote unquote protesters or rioters, far left wing extremists, they surround the building, and yeah, so if somebody throws something at a federal agent, if they're able to grab them, they will. However, there's not a whole lot being done. They've been obstructing them like crazy, and it comes with an 8-year prison sentence, and they're not grabbing these people that are standing in the way of the vehicles that are trying to get out of the exit of the ICE facilities. They're just not doing much, and it's been really surprising to me that they haven't just been rounding up just dozens at a time and just arresting all of them. So, not sure. We'll see. Anyway, independent journalist Brandy Cruz, quote, "Some of us have been covering Antifa for 15 years and never had anyone in a position of authority even acknowledge their existence." Yeah, President Biden, when he was president, famously, he said, "No, Antifa is just an idea. It's just an idea."
Some of us have been covering Antifa
Look, man, they're protected completely by Democrats, and everybody fucking knows it.
for 15 years and have never had anyone in a position of authority even acknowledge their existence. And I'll also tell you that I think that had you not done, the single most powerful thing you've done to deal with this scourge has been acknowledging that Antifa is a real thing. I genuinely believe there would be people at these tables who would be dead today and would have been killed in Portland had you not called them a terror organization and said we're going to bring the full weight of the federal government to bear. Some of us have been covering Antifa for 15 years.
All right. That's wild, man. And Katie Davenport, and it's a quote. Just play it here.
"I'm an investigative journalist from Seattle. I work for the Post Millennial alongside Andy Ngo and Jack Posobiec. I have been infiltrating Antifa cells in Seattle and Portland for the past decade. I know their inner workings, and Antifa uses extreme political violence to crush the civil rights of their political enemies and believes that violence is justified
Yes,
by
they do.
any means necessary. But today, I want to focus on what is happening in Portland at the ICE facility. I've been covering this for the past 4 months, and this is a call out to corporate media who has completely ignored this story or has
And they will continue
falsely
to.
reported on it. This is nothing short other than a sustained attack on the United States, which is being supported by Democratic elected officials. The Portland
is.
Police Bureau has completely abandoned several blocks outside the ICE facility, giving away their jurisdiction to a terrorist group who has spent the past 4 months harassing, assaulting, and intimidating anyone they perceive to be against their cause. Not only
Anybody.
have federal agents been relentlessly
just the
assaulted
feds.
for more than 100 consecutive days, black-clad anarchist militants concealing their identities behind black facial coverings have been assaulting reporters just for trying to cover their crimes. Today, I am sitting here with a black eye and a concussion after being violently hit in the
she's
face
the one that
with
got
a
hit by
metal
the
pole
flagpole.
while reporting outside the ICE facility just this past week. After the attack, I immediately went to three Portland police officers
they did
who
nothing.
refused to detain the suspect. I took the time to chase down the suspect in the streets, had her held for 35 minutes. I was waiting for Portland police to come, and they never came. I'm an investigator.
No, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't. Be like, well, we really can't identify her. Well, the police didn't observe the incident taking place. All right, so breaking 911. Let's see. Brandy Cruz, living proof that you can recover from TDS. Oh, yeah, that's right. Check this out.
I'm going to tell it to you anyway, because it's relevant to what we're talking about. I'm living proof that you can recover from TDS. I had strong Trump derangement syndrome for probably 8 years.
Wow.
This is one of the reasons I recovered
Brainwashing.
from it. And by the way, it's much better to not have TDS. I'm happier, I'm healthier, more successful. I even think I got a little more attractive after I got rid of my Trump derangement syndrome. Yes.
Yep, Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah, it's they're psychotic. They're absolutely psychotic. That completely it could go without saying. Anyway, so Secretary Kristi Noem, Antifa terrorists are waging war on our homeland. Sanctuary politicians need to stop playing politics and start protecting their citizens. And if they won't, we will. President Trump and I never will never surrender our cities to criminal, illegal aliens and domestic terrorists.
He keeps throwing out insults. I wish he would just defend the people that he's responsible for. And that is what is shocking to me about these leftist politicians, just how they ignore the people who elected them, jeopardize their safety, and continue to disrespect our law enforcement officers. So one of the things I've been dealing with all day here in Portland is a bunch of pansies that are elected into political office who won't make a decision to keep their citizens safe. I'm proud of our federal law enforcement officers. They're absolute rock stars in the face of this kind of opposition, and we're going to continue to get them the resources they need to get the bad guys off the streets, Jesse.
Yep, they are a bunch of panders. The Democrats are, the mainstream media. This whole following the money through Antifa, I think it's going to stretch across every single thing that's on the left. It's going to touch everything. It's going to touch the college institutions, universities. It's going to touch the Democrat politicians, the NGOs, the nonprofits, the activists. It's going to reach all over the place. It's going to connect to everything, I think. I think the entire Democratic Party is going to be completely exposed. But the big question is, like, what exactly is going to happen? How many people are going to be involved? Potentially thousands of people. And probably criminally involved. So anyway, Commander Op at Large C.A. Gregory, California. The Green Machine is bringing the energy to Chicago. These fine Chicagoans got fist bumps instead of handcuffs. With Chicago's support, Operation Midway Blitz will be here until we accomplish our mission. So they're out there interacting with the public. In Chicago, Chirac.
Hey, we need some energy. We gotta have some energy here going on, guys.
Well, this is getting copyrighted for sure.
Yes, sir. Hey, thank y'all.
All right, there you go. Having some fun. Well, he's not really walking the beat, but anyway. Yeah, good time, man. Not everybody in Chicago hates ICE and hates law enforcement. A lot of people are really happy that they're there. All right, from Trisha McLaughlin. This footage is from about a month ago. Oh, okay, here. Let me start with this because let's get the context first. So Aaron Reichlin Melnick, the video of this incident is just as bad as it sounds. The priest is standing there, not doing anything remotely illegal, and without warning, a masked DHS agent on the roof shoots him in the top of his head with a pepper ball. Well, first of all, he is blocking the entrance. There's not a vehicle that's coming out of it. But still, probably from a legal perspective, it looks like he's standing on the property. And I mean, I'm not excusing what happened because it's pretty crazy what they do. But anyway, here I'll play the video. So yeah, he's definitely standing on the property. He's not on the sidewalk. Not saying that it excuses what they did. However, we didn't get any amount of time before this video started. They could have been shouting at him, step off the property. They probably could have been doing that for 10, 15 straight minutes. And then they're like, all right, we're going to start shooting you with pepper balls if you don't move. And he doesn't move. And then they act out on their lawful order because he is on the property. But anyway, yeah, so it does look bad. I will admit that. It does look bad. But anyway, this is from Trisha McLaughlin and her response to this. This footage is from almost a month ago. What this clipped video doesn't show is that these agitators were blocking an ICE vehicle from leaving the federal facility, impeding operations, which could have been just right off to the right of the camera. There may have been a vehicle there that was trying to move, and they conveniently didn't show that on camera. Over and over again, law enforcement ordered these agitators to move off of federal property so the vehicle could move. Law enforcement verbally warned these agitators that they would use force if they did not move and stop impeding operations. They did not comply. Shortly after, rioters began throwing rocks, bottles, and launching fireworks at the law enforcement officers on the roof. At the time of this incident, the facility held criminal illegal aliens, including gang members, drug traffickers, and other violent criminals. Obstructing law enforcement puts officers, detainees, and the public at risk. If you are obstructing law enforcement, you can expect to be met with force. And as an aside, this is the same pastor who flipped Secretary Noam and our team, the Bird. when we were there last week. That's of no surprise to me. How do we really know that he's actually a priest? I mean, anybody could buy a priest outfit. You can just go up to a Halloween store and buy one, for crying out loud. Is that time of year? All right, from Homeland Security, quote, they pit law enforcement officers against each other. At no time should a law enforcement officer be barred from going to help another officer that is in danger. And that's from ICE Acting Director Todd Lyons. The men and women of DHS law enforcement get up every morning to make our community safer. It does not serve the public for sanctuary police to stand down when federal law enforcement is in danger.
You know, that's
this is on Newsmax.
The whole part of the sanctuary city policy debate is the fact they pit law enforcement officers against each other. At no time should a law enforcement officer be barred from going to help another officer that's in danger, right? You know, the superintendent had his press conference yesterday, and he categorically denied the fact that officers didn't respond. Unfortunately, his own dispatchers and their own readouts say differently. You know, what I do applaud the superintendent on saying that you can't assault officers and you will be held accountable. But to your point, we can't have law enforcement officers not backing each other up. They have to be there to support and help each other. Federal officers support local and state officers all the time. And in our time of need, we really hope that local and state will come to our assistance as well. That could have been an extremely dangerous situation where you have, you know, individuals, these real extremists that are using vehicles, 10,000, 15,000 pound trucks and SUVs to ram into vehicles to try to run officers over. That's a deadly force situation. And you would think that any state and local law enforcement officer in their leadership would go all hands on deck to come help us in those situations.
Yeah, and they really do need the help of the local law enforcement. The only problem is the city cops, they have to take their orders from the chief, and the chief takes his orders from the mayor. And if the chief is like, look, we're going to help our federal partners because we're in law enforcement. You're the mayor, but we're in law enforcement, and we see the problem here. And if we're not going to go down there and help them, you know, that's going to cause a ton of problems, you know, not only on the local level, but just politically across the country. But, I mean, if he takes that stance, then all the mayor has to do is say, okay, fine. Well, if you don't want to do the job, then I'll find somebody who will. Or the lack of the job, I guess. So, yeah, it's a major problem. And I don't know where the county sheriffs, where they might stand with all this. I'm sure that the county sheriff, the Cook County sheriff, probably takes the exact same stand as the mayor's, probably anti-ICE, probably pro-illegal immigration and all that. Plus, I don't really know what the county sheriffs, what they do specifically in Chicago. Because in New York City, don't they just mostly just hang out in the court and in the courthouse, and they'll serve court papers and stuff like that. Whereas in the county that I live in, the sheriffs, they go on patrol, they pull people over, they show up to calls and everything. I mean, like the only police that I have, at least in my neighborhood, are the county sheriffs. Like, we don't have city police where I live. I live in an unincorporated area. But anyway, so the White House, President Trump, my goal is to stop crime in America. Governor Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Johnson. Uh-oh. Wah. Let's read a couple of comments. I didn't comment on that. Joey, fuck around, find out. Out of my city, you masked, reckless rogue. Is he talking to you or me? Yeah, really. Welcome to Chicago. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of memes in here. Democrats be like, put another happy little Antifa clown over here. Just let it go. Antifa, BOS, Antifa clown with all the sombreros. Everybody's in on the sombreros. That's from Grok AI. Hilarious. Big fat baby. Mayor Johnson has a 6% approval rating. Chicago has 6% gang population. He's starting to make sense. All right. Anyway, I'll move on from that. We'll head to the next thing from Trisha McLaughlin. Here's the real story. As Border Patrol was conducting... Oh, wait, hold on. Didn't we already do that? Okay, no, never mind. This is a whole different issue. Here, let me start with this. Oh, conveniently, they got rid of... Oh, wait, no. There it is. All right, we're good. Yeah, let's start with this. So, starting with Laura N. Rodriguez Preza, a federal agent points a weapon at a woman who was recording them. Jess, a U.S. citizen and member of a neighborhood patrol team that documents and shares ICE activity across the city, was filming when the incident occurred earlier today in the Berwyn area. Actually, what was probably going on, well, I highly doubt that looks like an airsoft, hence the canister there, but I'm no expert on airsoft and all that, less lethal, I don't know about all that. Most likely it was probably one of these agitators that are aggressively following around ICE and... You know, like the 10 vehicles that happened the other day. Look, ICE is on high alert. You probably shouldn't be following them around because you will fuck around and find out. So anyway, Chris Murphy, Democrat, says, this is out of hand. These agents are there to cause trouble and violence, not to keep people safe. These are the scenes that play out in war-torn, destitute countries, not America. No, dude, y'all are making it happen because you ain't cooperating with the federal government, you fucking assholes. So this is the real story. As Border Patrol was conducting a targeted enforcement, a vehicle started aggressively trailing our officers and intentionally veered into their vehicle in an apparent attempt to ram law enforcement's vehicle. Despite the barrage of violent attacks on DHS law enforcement, these agents fully followed their training. This is a pepperball gun used for riot control without causing lethal injuries. Aggressors and violent activists who wish to harm and intimidate our officers should not be surprised when protective measures are displayed to prevent violence against our officers. We aren't playing. And good. To correct the record, that lady is in no official capacity at all. She's just going around trying to start shit. They're trying to start shit so they can get shit on camera and that they can use against the feds. That's all they're there to do. They're there to try to get the feds to do exactly what they did, to lift a pepperball gun and point it at them. And then they say, oh my God, it's a real gun. He's pointing a real gun at us. And then next thing you know, everybody in lockstep in mainstream media, they're all talking about the same fucking thing. It's all those stupid bullshit tactics that they keep playing around with. All right, One America News. Jay Jones running for Antifa general, not attorney general, chairman of the Constitutional Rights Political Action Committee, I think. That Larry Ward explains to the Riley Lewis show that Jay Jones is pro-violence, yet he's running to be the top cop in Virginia on The Real Story OAN. So Jay Jones, he's the guy that wrote out those text messages a couple of years ago saying that he was dreaming about his political opponent being killed in front of his children, and like it was really fucked up. I've already read those texts a couple times on here. So anyway, let's take a look at this clip.
Let's start with your initial thoughts about this whole scandal surrounding Jay Jones.
Well, look, it is exactly who the Democrats are. This is the party of the squad. This is the party of Antifa.
He's right.
This is the party that is of the summer of love, the mostly peaceful protests.
There's no truth but power.
Where Jay Jones comes from. That's who Jay Jones is. He lives in that party. He's running for Antifa general. He's not running for attorney general.
It's the party of the Confederacy, for fuck's sake.
If he were running for attorney general, he would obviously step down because you
can't
the
same party
be the
all
top
along.
Cop and say that cops should die. You can't be the top cop and want to put two bullets in your political opponent's head. So he's running for Antifa general, and that's really that's really the problem of the disease, the cancer that lives within the Democrat Party, and it is absolutely fatal.
Yep. And the real scary thing is that power exchanges from one party to the next from time to time. That's the way it's been since forever. And if or when Democrats get back into power, it's pretty scary to imagine what they're going to be doing as they keep ramping up the violence and the political rhetoric. And there's really no telling what they're going to end up doing if they take Congress back over again or the Oval Office. I don't know. All I know is that I'm really glad that the Second Amendment is sweeping across the country. It's being unleashed. Thank God. The majority of the country is constitutional carry at this point, even with handguns. Because that was one of the big things that almost every state in the country was preventing people from being able to carry without a permit. But now the majority of the country can do that. So it's really good because that's our one amendment above all the amendments that's going to help us fight back if that time will ever come. And seems like with each passing day, it looks like the Democrats, they just want to ratchet it up to that point. So anyway, Senate Republicans, and they have a thread here. Senate Democrats want to stop President Trump from using his lawful authority to protect Americans from deadly drugs. And we'll see what they have to say about that. President Trump has taken decisive action to protect Americans by lawfully striking narco-terrorists smuggling deadly drugs into our country. But today, Senate Democrats are attempting to stop the president from keeping Americans safe. Illegal narcotics smuggled by narco-terrorists have killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. More Americans have died from drug overdoses in the last 7 years than the U.S. military casualties in World War I, World War II, and Vietnam combined. There is no doubt that strikes against drug cartels will save American lives. Just imagine if Al-Qaeda or ISIS set up shop in the Caribbean or along our southern border and harmed even a tiny fraction of the Americans the cartels are responsible for killing. Look, Al-Qaeda, that's a really good analogy in and of itself because they were involved with, I'm sure they still are involved in the opium business with opiates and opioids, and I'm not sure how much that they actually sell to Big Pharma, but I'm sure that there's a market for it with Big Pharma and making painkillers and stuff. They get it from opium production, of which I believe Al-Qaeda has been involved with for a really long time. So yeah, imagine if Al-Qaeda got some ships, got some boats and skiffs, and they started running, drug smuggling operations right off the coast, like actual Al-Qaeda themselves. I mean, I think that's a really good tie-in there. Anyway, this isn't the first time Democrats have... Oh, wait, hold on. I missed this part. Our response would be swift and unquestioned. There is no difference here. This isn't the first time Democrats have tried to strip President Trump of his lawful authority to protect Americans. Last June, they tried to take away the president's ability to use force against Iran only days after a successful strike that decimated their nuclear program. Democrats are once again attempting to undermine President Trump's foreign policy successes that make Americans safer. Senate Republicans stand with President Trump. Democrats are voting to keep deadly drugs flowing into our country. Well, look no further than blue states. Look at Oregon and Washington and New York City. Like New York City, they've got freaking vending machines that has drug paraphernalia in it. You could buy needles and shit from a fucking vending machine out on the sidewalk. And then you got open drug use in, I would assume, in every blue city at this point. I mean, it without any question, in San Francisco and Philadelphia, New York City, I'm sure Chicago's the same way. Portland, Oregon's another one. I mean, they're all over the place. I mean, they welcome the drug use. Because, like I've said before, like all the roads with their ultimate agenda just leads to depopulation in general. I think they just want to rid the entire world of everyone except 100 million at the most. That's what I think. I know that's probably tinfoil hat territory, conspiratorial. However, that's what I think the big agenda is when you tie it in with like the World Economic Forum and all those fucking bozos. Anyway, Watley War Room, the Democrats ran on an open borders, inflationary spending, weak America program. What we're seeing now is the Democrats doubling down on that same failed agenda. My opponent, Roy Cooper, is a champion for that platform.
One on a very clear vision of rebuilding our economy, restoring our borders, keeping our kids and our communities safe, and making sure that we're respected around the world. The Democrats, on the other hand, ran on an open borders, inflationary spending, weak America.
And they'll do it again if they win power again.
And what we've seen right
now,
they'll
open those floodgates right back up again. Mark my words.
Same failed agenda. They have not learned a thing since 2024. My opponent, Roy Cooper, is a champion for that platform. We're going to win because we're listening to the voters. We understand the issues that they care about, and we're putting solutions on the table.
Yep, just hold your ground. This is exactly why the Democrats are shutting down the government, because they have the midterms to think about. They've got really nothing left to run on because they're just getting obliterated all over the place, at least politically speaking, except to their base. They're trying to pander to their base by shutting down the government. Plus, because Republicans, they have the majority in the House, they have the majority in the Senate, even though they don't have full control over the Senate. And we see this because the government shut down right now, thanks to the Senate Democrats. And also we have Trump in the Oval Office. And then just to have the cherry on top, Democrats are saying that even the Supreme Court is controlled by the Republicans and the conservatives. So they're using that to tell their base that it's not us who shut down the government, it's the Republicans. They're the ones that control everything. So they're going to keep it shut down for who knows how long, 3, 4 months, 6 months, 8 months. I have no idea, but I think it's going to be shut down for quite a while. And they're just going to run on that in the midterms because they want to inflict as much financial hardship as possible, because that's going to be their number one play, is that this is all the Republicans' fault. It's all the Republicans' fault, because that is all they're saying every single day online. They just keep saying the same thing, that Republicans shut down the government. Republicans are on vacation right now because they don't care about you. So that's my opinion. I think that's why that they're shutting down the government. It's not about healthcare for illegal aliens. I mean, they know that. They know Republicans aren't even going to start that conversation. They just want to do it because they got to have these campaign slogans that they keep farming up, and they're going to use it for the midterms next year. So Senator Ron Johnson, what do Democrats want? Power. Absolutely. That's what they want above all. They will do anything to acquire and maintain power. The damage they've inflicted on our democracy is something Russia and China could only dream of achieving. Yeah, because they're weaponizing the First Amendment.
What do you think they were after?
One word answer: power. Democrats will do
That's
anything
Number
to
one.
acquire and maintain power. That's what this is all about.
Yep.
Yes, it's a fishing expedition.
They're a bunch of communists.
Eric's the expert in terms of what crimes might be prosecuted. The damage that people like Comey, Brennan, Clapper, McCabe, Strzok, Page, Thibault, the damage they have done to our democracy, starting with the exoneration memo of Hillary Clinton through Crossfire Hurricane, the Russian hoax, up to this moment. Russia and China, they could only dream of interfering in our elections to that standpoint. You know, I was targeted earlier with Senator Grassley with the unsolicited briefing in August of 2020 to, you know, run us off the tracks of the Hunter Biden investigation. Then they leaked that to the media, smearing me during my reelection campaign. So again, this is time and time and time again, orders of magnitude worse than anything they're falsely accusing Trump of doing.
Yeah, and it just goes on, and they had power in the last 4 years, and God knows what they wielded with it. I mean, we know that they've done quite a lot of damage to the country, and even though that they're not in the majority of Congress and they're not in the Oval Office, doesn't mean that they're not capable of inflicting shitloads of damage. I mean, that's exactly what they're doing. I mean, it just seems imminent that next time Democrats get into power, I can only imagine what the hell could end up happening. I don't know. Maybe on a day-to-day basis, yeah, we might still go to work every day. You know, kids might still go to school and things like that. But on the other hand, I really don't know. I don't know what's going to end up happening. Nothing good. I think we can all pretty much guarantee that. Anyway, One American News, FBI Director Kash Patel announces the firing of several agents who monitored the communications of GOP senators. So this was the other day when that was announced, the 8 senators, actually it was announced yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, that 8 senators were spied on by the Democrats, and Kash Patel blew it wide open. So let's hear,
FBI Director
what they say here.
Kash Patel announces the firing of several agents who monitored the communications of GOP senators. In a post on X today, Patel said the dismissed agents weaponized law enforcement against the American people and revealed a probe into the matter has been opened. He also announced the dismantling of the CR-15 squad, a public corruption unit in the D.C. field office, which aided former special counsel Jack Smith's anti-Trump probe. The FBI's tracking of 8 GOP senators was part of its Arctic frost probe, which Smith took over after being appointed. Attorney General Pam Bondi condemned the investigation while testifying on Capitol Hill.
Operation Arctic Frost was an unconstitutional, undemocratic abuse of power. During Arctic Frost, the FBI also placed 92 linked Republican individuals and Republican groups, such as Charlie Kirk's Turning Point, on their list.
92.
This is the kind of conduct that shattered the American people's faith in our government.
That's just one of a million
Bondi
things
went
they've been
on
doing,
to
though,
point
man.
out under President Trump's watch, the FBI is targeting violent criminals and other lawbreakers, not sitting senators.
It just goes on and on and on what they've been engaged with. And again, we still haven't seen really any indictments of anybody except for James Comey. That's it. And at this rate, it's going to take a year before we get, like, what, half a dozen indictments? Sounds like hundreds of people should be getting indicted for, not just for that, but for everything we've been dealing with for the last fucking decade or more. Anyway, Liz Elkind, another hallway confrontation between House lawmakers, Mike Lawler demanding Hakeem Jeffries sign onto a bipartisan bill temporarily extending enhanced ACA credits. You're embarrassing yourself, Jeffries kept repeating.
Did you get permission from your boss?
Why don't we sign?
All right, here, I'll turn it up.
You can easily extend
the
the ACA
Did your
right
boss,
now.
Donald Trump,
He's
give
not
you
my
permission?
boss.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not. And by the way,
So let me ask you a
why
question.
did you vote to
Let me
shut
ask
the
you a
government
I think
down?
he's all of our
All right,
boss, right?
Let me ask you a question.
For years, you always lectured about how we need to keep the government open.
You're making a show of this to
No,
make
it's
yourself
sad.
relevant.
It's sad. You could
Dude,
easily
clean your
sign
camera
on.
lens,
You're
man.
embarrassing
You
yourself
could
right
sign
now.
on to this. The only
You're
embarrassment
chasing
here is you.
clout. You're an
You
embarrassment.
could sign on to the bill.
Let me ask you a question.
You have 4 Democrats on here.
Let me
Why
ask you a
won't you
question.
sign on
Let me ask
to
you a
it?
question.
It's a clean
Oh my God, this goes on for 4
You
minutes.
voted for the one thing that we know, correct?
I voted for a
The
tax
largest-
cut bill that gave the largest tax cut to Americans in history, including, by the way, the average New Yorker getting a $4,000 tax cut. Are you against that?
You're embarrassing
Do you
yourself right
you want
now.
to cut the standard deduction in
The
half? Is that what
largest
you
cut
wanted
to
to do?
Medicaid in
No, we
American
rooted
history.
out
You voted
waste,
for that.
fraud, and abuse, by the way.
You voted
Tom DiNapoli, the
for a
Democratic
permanent-
controller
That
of
is
New
correct.
Let me
York,
ask you a question.
pointed out that $1.2 billion
if you're
were
gonna-
wasted.
Yeah, that's why they cut a lot of Medicaid, because they discovered a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse. I believe it was partially, if not mostly, through Doge, where they found tons of fraud, waste, and abuse. A lot of people were receiving benefits that otherwise wouldn't have qualified for it. They just gave people apparently just blanket benefits, and if they actually went through the proper application process, they would have never been entitled to them. So they're being taken off of it. But Democrats are saying that X amount of millions of people are losing their benefits, and they keep changing the numbers. I don't know if it's on the list. I think it's on my list that I'm going to get to in a little bit. But one of the Democrats said 13 million people are going to lose their benefits. I hear other numbers like 25 million. I've heard 10 million. I've heard 15 million. They don't even have a solid number. Of course, they don't ever show any sources. The Democrats don't. They never show any sources when it comes to this shit.
Listen, you're not going to talk. You're not going to talk to me. You're not going to talk to me and talk over me
New York residents
because you don't want to hear what I have to say.
Oh, I'm listening.
So why don't you just keep your mouth shut?
Oh,
because you showed up.
Is that the way to talk?
You showed up.
Yeah.
And so you voted for this one big
I signed
ugly
on
bill.
for this. You can extend it right now.
A permanent extension of massive tax breaks for your billionaire donors.
So 90% of Americans...
There goes that talking point again. The billionaires are getting tax breaks.
Is that right?
90% of Americans take the standard deduction,
Is that
right?
right?
If you have
Again, they never point to anything with regard to this billionaire bullshit.
A massive tax increase on Americans all across the country.
You're
You support
here,
that?
unfortunately,
You're
to
against
do
lifting the
the
cap on
bidding
salt?
of your billionaire donors.
The
That's
billionaire
unfortunate.
donors, lifting the
That's
cap on
correct.
salt, we put a...
Oh, there's a lot of
income
Democrat
tax.
billionaire donors, too.
An income
Where
tax.
the rest
Well,
of
didn't you
your
want all
Republican
Republicans
colleagues?
to be here?
Where
I'm
the
here.
rest- where are the rest of your
You wanted
Republican colleagues?
Republicans to be here. I'm here.
Why are you
And
here?
by the way,
What?
you can pass an ACA extension right now. Sign
your
on to this
boss-
bill.
Did your boss
Sign
Donald
on
Trump-
to the bill.
Is your boss Donald Trump behind it?
I think he's calling them out because no matter what Republicans do, even if Republicans were to come out and say, okay, fine, we'll sign up. See, like Democrats, they insist on 1.5 trillion because it's such an absurdly insane number. They know that it's impossible for Republicans to say yes. But even if Republicans were to say yes, I think still the Democrats, like almost they would have to call their bluff. It would not be good on Republicans politically to do that because it would include funding for illegal immigrants on Medicaid. I'm just saying that if Republicans came out and said, okay, fine, we'll give you the 1.5 trillion. Let's get the government open again. I bet if you call them on their bluff, Democrats would still say no. Because this is their absolute agenda right now, is to keep it closed, probably for months, to just cause just a financial turmoil, even though the stock market looks like it's doing perfectly fine, though.
Star 5145. Why don't you get on it?
Mike, is your boss Donald Trump behind that?
Why won't you get on it?
Because you don't work for the American people.
Oh, I do. I work for the people of New York. I work for the people of my district.
Is that why you?
I'm here.
You got 145.
And by the way, I voted
people
for
on
a
Medicaid.
clean CR to keep the government open and
Mike,
funded.
you're-
You voted to shut it
You're
down.
embarrassing yourself right now.
Yeah, leader, with all due
Well, as we
respect,
would say
you're the
back in the day,
one.
why are you playing yourself?
You're the one
Why are
who
you playing
actually
yourself with
voted
these
to shut
theatrics?
the government down.
Actually,
He did.
No,
It's
that's not
sad.
true.
It's sad. You voted to shut the government
You did.
Do Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the President?
Right, and
correct?
you're
Oh, there's the bullshit talking points. Yeah, well, we voted to pass a bill on spending. You voted no. That means the government shuts down. If you don't have funding for it, the government shuts down.
You know that you need 60 votes in the Senate,
Is
right?
that right? No.
Do you need 60 votes
Exactly.
in the Senate?
You need 60 votes in the Senate. And they didn't have 60 votes in the Senate. Ergo, the Democrats shut down the
How many votes
government.
needed to pass your one big ugly bill?
Reconciliation, which you
Was
did with
That
the
bill got
IRA.
passed, dude.
Boy, that
That's
really
old news.
Reduced inflation.
Are you,
did a
trying to
great job
elevate
there.
yourself because you're afraid
I'm not
you're
trying
about
to
lose
elevate myself.
re-election?
No, I'm not going to lose
ask you a
re-election.
question.
You spent $42 million last cycle.
Mike,
You didn't do
Mike,
that
let me
great.
ask you, why
Uh-oh.
aren't you running for governor right now?
Because I actually enjoy this job, and I'm here to do
You
it. And
enjoy-
by the way,
you enjoy-
you
you
could
enjoy
actually
embarrassing
pass.
yourself?
You could actually pass
You enjoy being a lackey for
subsidy
Donald
right
Trump?
now
Is that
to
right?
ensure that people don't have health care premiums going up. Why won't you support this one-year bill?
Let me ask you a question.
Tom Swazi's on it. Jared Golden.
Let me ask you a question.
Marie
Let me ask you a question.
Perez.
Let me ask
Are
you a
they
question.
wrong?
Your
Don
other-
Davis?
your other
Are they
boss-
wrong?
Your other boss, Mike Johnson, I challenged him to a debate
Yeah.
on the floor. Did he send you?
No.
This
I'm
dude looks
here
like he
on
hates
my
his
behalf
job.
of my
He's like, oh my God.
constituents, because you shut the government down. And my constituents are suffering
can we
as
go
a
now?
result of your ridiculous ploy
If
because
you-
you're so afraid of Zoran Mandami. By the way, when are you endorsing him?
By the way,
do you endorse him for mayor?
First of all, are you?
You gonna
Good
endorse
question.
him for mayor?
Probably.
You're a complete and total embarrassment right now.
Oh,
I
why
mean,
is that?
seriously,
Because you don't want to answer the
is
question?
This supposed to be a video?
Because you don't want to
for
pass
this
this bill for
election?
healthcare?
You
Is that what's
don't
going
want
on
to
right
answer
now?
the question? Do you support Zoran? By the way, did you see his
Listen.
statement yesterday?
Listen.
An embarrassment on October 7th blaming the Jews? You support that?
Whoa, uh-oh.
Should he be the Democratic
No, he doesn't know
nominee for
about
mayor?
that.
First of all, I don't answer to you. You
Should
don't
he be
even
the Democratic
answer to
mayor?
yourself.
Should he be the
You don't
Democratic
even-
nominee
I'll
for
answer
mayor?
whatever questions I need to answer about
Okay,
the
so
mayor's
you think
race,
his
about
statement
the Ameri-
yesterday was okay?
First of all,
All right. That's sad.
First of all,
It's unfortunate.
don't come with this phony
These are bills.
bill. No.
These
no,
are
no.
bills. They're not
Phony?
It's
They're
not
real
a bill
bills.
that Republicans are even.
All right. Whatever, going back and forth. That's entertainment. So yeah, so the extending enhanced ACA credit. So it sounds like he's just directly calling them out on their bullshit. That, okay, well, here's a bill. Why don't you sign this? This is going to extend the credits that you want extended, the Affordable Care Act. which is exactly what they keep saying, that Republicans are refusing to sign. Republicans refuse to extend the ACA tax credits. And he's like, here's a bill right here. I've got it drafted up. I'm absolutely on board with it. I want you to sign it with me, and it'll extend the credits by an entire year. So we can hammer it out over the next year. But in the meantime, you'll get those ACA credits, and then you won't see the millions of people skyrocketing their insurance premiums and all that shit. So I think at least that's what I got out of it. I got out of it like in the way that he's calling them out on his bullshit, that they have no intention on extending it, nor do they give a shit. They don't give a shit about healthcare. They don't. I mean, they passed Obamacare, for crying out loud. All right, Rep. Steve Womack, 6 chances, and Senate Democrats continue to block government funding while hardworking Americans pay the price, from Daily Caller. And I'll take a quick look here. And we'll start here. I'll make it a little bit larger in case you're watching this through a smartphone. Anyway, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and a majority of Senate Democrats voted on Wednesday afternoon to keep the government shuttered despite mounting consequences from the prolonged funding lapse. Democrats rejected a bipartisan funding measure that would restore government operations for the 6th time. The same trio of Democratic senators, John Fetterman of Pennsylvania and Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada, and independent Maine Senator Angus King, who caucuses with the Democrats, broke ranks to join Republicans in voting yes on the House-passed spending bill. And the vote tally has remained virtually unchanged since the opening day of the shutdown. Most Senate Democrats remain dug in against reopening the government despite previously railing against shutdowns during prior funding fights. Schumer told reporters on Wednesday that Democrats were winning the shutdown battle despite some Americans facing financial stress and disrupted access to federal programs due to the funding lapse. Look, this is it's gonna benefit, or it's gonna be more detrimental to Democrats a lot more than Republicans. I would go as far as to say that there's probably a lot more Democrats who are on government assistance than there are Republicans. Anyway, so, quote, in almost every poll we've seen, they blame Trump and the Republicans double digits more than they blame the Democrats, Schumer said. You put all that together, they're sort of squirming. The 8-day shutdown has disrupted air travel, and businesses that rely on federal contracts are beginning to lay off staff. Active duty service members and Border Patrol agents, among other federal employees, are also temporarily reporting to work without pay. The government shutdown will cost the U.S. economy $15 billion in losses per week, according to analysis released by the White House. And let's see, Democrats are holding the American people hostage to extract far-left concessions. Senate Majority Whip John Barrasso, the second-ranking Senate Republican, said on Wednesday, they're telling our service members their paychecks are negotiable. They're telling small businesses their dreams are collateral damage in a partisan fight. They're telling mothers with young children their WIC benefits are leverage for far-left demands. And anyway, it goes on a little bit after that. So that's the gist of it. And I'll go ahead and move on to the next thing. So from House Committee on Agriculture, Democrats like Nancy Pelosi can't even explain what's wrong with passing a clean CR.
I understand what you're saying about where the differences are, and they are very big. They are voting yes on what we say here in Washington, a clean CR, a bill to keep the government running for 7 weeks, and Democrats are voting no, and for the reasons you just said. So how are they shutting down the government?
First of all, it isn't a clean CR.
Okay.
So let's not stipulate to that. It's not a clean CR.
What do they have in it?
Going into that. The point is.
All right, whatever. I really would have liked to have seen more of that. Of course, she's not going to answer that. Of course, she's not going to admit that at all. But I'm honestly kind of shocked that CNN actually took that stance, because she is 100% correct. Nothing she said was wrong there. All right, Rep. Vern Buchanan. 2 weeks ago, House GOP passed a clean CR to keep the government open. 216 Republicans and even 1 Democrat voted to fund the government. The only thing standing in the way is Senate Democrats. It's time for them to stop the games and vote to reopen the government. So there's an image of the House Republicans who voted for the nonpartisan clean CR to keep the government open. 216 Republicans, 1 Democrat voted to keep the government funded. So there you go. There you have it. It's all on the Democrats. GOP, watch. This is 5 minutes of Democrats fighting for taxpayer-funded health care for illegal immigrants. So in case you're wondering, if you're not sure whether if Democrats are actually trying to give your tax money to illegal immigrants for their health care while you have to pay full price for yours, Well, let's take a look at this and let's see
I
what
haven't heard
they ended up
anybody in
really
my
saying.
party saying that illegal immigrants should get access to the health insurance marketplace.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide
Yeah, you remember
coverage
this?
for undocumented immigrants.
During campaign season. When was this? 2020.
Sure. So, yes, I'm never going to be in favor of a policy that denies people access to public health, public safety, or public education based on their immigrant status.
That all people in this country have the right to health care.
Would you include the 11 million undocumented immigrants in that?
Absolutely.
His first order of business, expanding state-run health care, including
It's all
full
about the
coverage
voters.
to 138,000.
Because first they get health care, then they get full government benefits, and then they get the right to vote.
Illegal immigrants.
So you support giving universal health care, Medicare for all, to people who are in this country illegally?
Let me just be very clear about this. I am opposed to any policy that would deny in our country any human being from access to public safety,
Your tax dollars, ladies and
public
gentlemen.
education, or public health.
She's taking
period.
your tax dollars,
They would be covered
giving them
under
to
your
people who are
plan.
not even
If
supposed to be
lawmakers
here.
passed a bill that would offer Medicaid to undocumented seniors, do you expect to
And you
sign
wonder
this,
why our
and do you
healthcare is
foresee
hyperinflated.
expanding it just beyond seniors?
I will sign that bill. I think it's important.
I did universal health care when I was mayor, fully implemented, regardless of pre-existing condition, ability to pay, and regardless of your immigration status. San Francisco is the only universal health care plan for all undocumented residents in America. I'm very proud of that.
On undocumented
Yep,
health
which is
care,
reimbursed by the federal
again, I think
government.
it's a human right. I think it makes
Your
economic
tax money.
sense.
We want to save health care for all people. Thank you.
When we talk about Medicare for all, ALL, it means all. It means every man, woman, and child in this country, including the undocumented.
Man, they're just
Everybody
saying
is
it
in
out
and
loud.
nobody's out in my bill.
Very brazen
And
with
we
it.
I don't want it to be.
We
an
want to give your
immigration
tax
bill. I want
money
it
to
be a
illegal
healthcare bill.
immigrants.
Would they have access to health insurance? Yes.
Health insurance for undocumented immigrants is a deal breaker for you.
That is one of the pillars of the plan as I see it.
Healthcare is a human
They
right
might have
for
chopped that
all,
one up.
including, by the way, the undocumented in this country.
Yeah, see, when I hear them say including undocumented, there you go. There's the bullseye right there. The Pete Buttigieg thing, I didn't hear him specifically say to undocumented citizens.
Accusations tonight against an Illinois program that provides health care for undocumented migrants.
People need to get health care. I am in favor of universal health care. However that comes together.
Or will this plan also include undocumented people?
And the answer is absolutely, of course.
You, as several of your fellow competitors for the Democratic nomination, support government-funded health care for undocumented immigrants.
This is not a progressive decision. It's a common sense thing.
Undocumented people should have the opportunity to buy into the plan.
The proposal
Oh, there you go.
Medicare for All that I
Bullseye.
introduced includes making sure that undocumented people are also covered.
You should be able to buy into it, in my view.
Should undocumented immigrants also be able to get subsidized health care?
They should have access to health care. They should have access to what everybody else has access to.
And they don't even give a reason why. Why? Why do they deserve our tax dollars? The reason why is so they can just virtue signal to the illegal immigrants and say, look what we did for you. Look, we gave you free health care. So you got to vote for us. If you vote for us, we won't only give you free health care, but we'll give you all kinds of free shit.
To once again lead on health care and provide a pathway and a framework for 1.1 million undocumented residents in the state of California to avail themselves to high quality, comprehensive medical care.
Well, is that the same thing with you? Do you believe people come here?
Isn't Medi-Cal, isn't that extremely in debt?
Are not citizens. They
Like
should all
$100
be
billion
getting
or something.
Food, health care, housing.
Depending on which law you're referring to, in certain circumstances, we do provide these services.
Support of a Medicare
Yep, of course they do.
for all single-payer system. And that means that everybody in the country has health care, including the undocumented.
Yeah, we get it. We
Medicare
get it.
for
Bernie
all,
Sanders is, yeah,
As
we get
I
it.
put this together, covers everyone, regardless of immigration status.
Bullseye.
And that's it.
We have universal health care regardless of immigration status that we expanded last year up to the age of 26. And clearly, as you know from my budget, we had a desire to do even more.
If it's okay, Judy, and deal
because California's got plenty of money for that
not homeless,
in their tax dollar coffers.
But nobody gets turned away in this state.
Over the age of 65, we'll pick up that tab regardless of your status. So we're going to take care of them as well. So I believe in this.
And we do ourselves no favors by having 11 million undocumented people in our country be unable to access health care.
I have a different bill.
Too bad. Go back to their own country.
That is specifically around.
They paid into their health care in their own country.
Folks.
I think that.
How about I go to their country and I get health care? Oh, no, you're not allowed to do that.
Need of health care, regardless of whether they're documented or undocumented.
Would you consider including the 11 million undocumented immigrants?
Once we're in balance, I think that would be the next step.
Yeah, but when it comes to everyday Americans, they don't give a flying fuck about you. They just want the illegal immigrants to get it so then they can start voting Democrat once they give them, blanket citizenship. All right, Senator Jim Banks. Democrats are keeping the government shut down so they can grandstand at their No Kings rally on October 18th. Eric Swallowswell hawking merch while our troops worry about getting paid. It's disgraceful.
No Kings rally is just a couple weeks away. I have partnered with No Kings here. Check out our merch, and I'll see you at the rally.
Now, of course, when this backfires, when there's tons of violence and they're throwing bricks at cops and they're throwing Molotov cocktails and they're smashing stores and looting and all that shit, which is probably going to be an element of it for sure. Of course, the media, all the red lights are going to turn off. Oh, no, it's mostly peaceful down here. It's all mostly peaceful. Scott Desjarlais, Democratic leadership voted 13 times for the same clean CR under the Biden administration. House GOP voted to keep the government open. Watch CNN called Chuck Schumer out on his shutdown hypocrisy. And CNN, they got it for the win again.
This is the type of thing you've said about shutdowns in the past. Let's listen.
What if I persuaded my caucus to say I'm going to shut the government down? I'm going to not pay our bills unless I get my way. It's a politics of idiocy, of confrontation,
yeah, you are
of
an
paralysis. Idiot. Shutting down government over a policy difference is self-defeating. We can never hold American workers hostage again. While the CR bill is very bad, the potential for a shutdown has consequences for America that are much, much worse. Therefore,
we're not going to hear his response, are we?
Open and not shut it down.
That was you 3 times. You.
All right, whatever. That's so annoying when they do that. They don't play. And I get that they're not gonna show the entire 5-minute interview, but at least get his reaction from it. All right, Deputy Secretary Sonderling, a big piece of U.S. DOL, Department of Labor, Make America Skilled Again effort is ensuring our workforce is prepared with the AI skills needed to thrive in the modern economy. The Democrat shutdown pauses the progress we've made in this critical area, putting our workers last. And this is from Secretary of Labor Lori Chavez de Raymer. USDLL's efforts to register new apprentices and make America skilled again are important to securing our economic dominance. The Democrat shutdown must end.
One of the things that we've been focused on is registering apprenticeships. That was an executive order by the president. 1 million active apprentices across this country. We had registered over 220,000 since the president took office. And now we've had to come to a stop in registering those apprenticeships with not only the public sector, but the private sector as well. And that's been disappointing to want to get to that 1 million active apprentices for the skilled workforce.
Yeah, that sucks. And I guess when it reopens, we'll pick back up on that effort. Senator Katie Boyd Britt. Senator Schumer's only concern right now is being a headliner on October 18th for the No Kings protest and appealing to his radical base. He's made it clear he's not the American people. Nope.
We see Chuck Schumer putting the politics of his reelect and trying to figure out if he can make it until, October 18th, the No Kings protest here in Washington, D.C., so that he can stand on the stage with those individuals and rally the left wing of his party and hopefully keep his job. He's putting that above the American people. And look, they're going to see through it. We've been working diligently to enact President Trump's agenda. We have had tremendous success because of President Trump's leadership. And at the end of the day, they're attempting to thwart that. But we're going to keep going, and we're going to keep making a difference for the very people who elected us to be here on November 5th.
It's going to be really interesting to see what happens during this No Kings protest, because the criminal element in Washington, D.C. has been suppressed since Trump's feds have been patrolling the streets. And this is their opportunity to go out and cause shit again, because they're going to have a huge crowd of people. You think they're not going to get into any funny business? I'm sure they will, because they always do. Every time there's a big protest in D.C. from the Democrats, shit usually gets pretty crazy. Anyway, Rep. Marionette Miller Meeks, MD. Dems have now voted 6 times to keep the government shut down. 6 times they've chosen $1.5 trillion in new spending in taxpayer-funded health care for illegal immigrants over paychecks for our troops, services for hardworking American families. This comes from The Hill. And start here. Maybe start here. All right. Senate Democrats on Wednesday blocked a bill to end the government shutdown for a 6th time in the funding lapse. Oh my God. Come on, The Hill. Enters its 2nd week with little headway made toward a resolution. Senators voted 54-45 on the GOP's clean stopgap spending package that would fund the government through late November. It needed 60 votes to advance. And yeah, I think the shutdown's going to go on past the end of November. The only question that I have as far as that is, if they don't pass any funding at the end of November, is that going to shut down more areas of the government, or is it just going to just continue extending the same partial shutdown we're dealing with? Senators Catherine Cortez Mastro, Angus King, and John Fetterman voted with Republicans, but for a 5th time, no other members of the Democratic caucus joined them. And it's like King on Wednesday said he would keep voting for the GOP stopgap bill out of fear for the power that the White House could exert in a shutdown. The power that the president and OMB and Vaught and Miller are exercising under the shutdown is a real threat to our country, so I'm going to continue to try to end the shutdown. Well, that's interesting. I'd like very much to get this ACA thing resolved, he added, referring to Democrats' demand to extend expiring Affordable Care Act premium subsidies. I think that's important. I think it can be. I think it should be. Republicans should step up and help us do that. But in the end, we got to get this shutdown over, because I think the worst is yet to come. Yeah, for sure. Democrats have continued to press for talks to extend healthcare subsidies past the year-end deadline, but Republicans have rebuffed them, saying that those conversations can only take place when the government reopens. Doesn't sound like from Hakeem Jeffries. Sounds like he has no interest whatsoever in doing so, at least based on that exchange that we just saw. All right. Moving next to House Republicans. A reminder, at Rep. Jeffries, you voted to shut down the government and cut rural health care, and we didn't. Let's get that straight. And Hakeem Jeffries says that airports are experiencing massive staffing shortages because of the Trump shutdown. How dare he? House Republicans remain on vacation. Get back to work so we can reopen the government. And yeah, I mean, they're not on vacation. I mean, it's pretty obvious, at least from the Senate hearing that they held yesterday with Pam Bondi. I think there were Republicans there, weren't there? It's day 8 of the Democrat shutdown. Look, more Republicans. They're not on vacation. In New York, air travelers are facing safety delays. Food banks in Georgia and Colorado are bracing for higher demand. Hospitals in New Jersey are putting some care on hold. Democrats in each of those states and many other examples we could list have voted 5 times to keep the government closed. Real Americans are paying the price, and it's getting worse by the hour.
Today, we're going to talk about some of the consequences of that shutdown and what it means to real people around this country, real Americans experiencing the devastating cost of their political antics here. And I'm going to read you some sample quotes and headlines that we just collected yesterday from around the country. Here's a headline from The Hill. GOP leaders point to Capitol Police missed paychecks as shutdown drags on. So today, the U.S. Capitol Police officers are going to come to work to bravely protect U.S. government officials and staff in these dangerous times. And they're going to do that without pay. Many Democrats in this chamber, by the way, I want to note, are going to receive paychecks this month.
Remember, the Democrats are the party of slavery.
Women of the U.S. Capitol Police who are protecting
kind of makes
them
sense.
Will not.
Working without pay and so on and so forth.
Aviation groups warn a government shutdown will delay aircraft safety inspections, maintenance work on critical equipment. While air traffic controllers are going to continue to serve in their posts, thankfully, critical safety inspections are going to stop, increasing risk for air travelers. That affects everybody. Here's another headline from Georgia. local media in Georgia. Central Georgia food banks prepare for surge of new clients during the government shutdown. It's a sad headline. Remember, Georgia's
most
two
of them vote
Democrat
Democrat.
senators,
I almost
Warnock
guarantee
and
it.
Ossoff, have now voted
People on
5
government
times
benefits,
to keep the
a lot
government
more
closed
Democrats
down.
than
5
Republicans.
times so far. I suspect they may continue, and they're hurting
The
real people
backfiring.
instead of Georgia. Here's one from New Hampshire local media. National parks caught in the crosshairs of government shutdown. Let me point out that both senators from New Hampshire, Senators Shaheen and Hassan, have repeatedly voted to keep the government closed, and New Hampshire's national park sites closed by extension. How about New Jersey? Here's a headline yesterday. Hospital at-home telehealth programs on hold amid government shutdown. You got 2 Democrat senators in New Jersey, Andy Kim and Cory Booker, and they have repeatedly voted against funding these programs.
Yeah, they're not
which
taking
New
any phone
Jerseyans
calls.
Rely upon daily. Here's one from Michigan. Michigan nonprofit leaders said a shutdown would be at best disruptive and at worst potentially devastating for local communities. There are 2 Democrat senators in Michigan, Gary Peters and Alyssa Slotkin, and they have voted now 5 times to enable this devastation upon their communities. One more, I could do this all day. Here's one more from CBS News. Government shutdown fears have Colorado food banks bracing for potential new visitors. You guessed it. 2 Democrat senators from Colorado, Michael Bennett,
as they
John
keep
Hickenlooper,
gaslighting their
they keep
constituency,
voting
saying
over and
it's
over
Trump's
to keep
shutdown,
the
it's not
government
my
closed.
shutdown.
Democrats claim they want to negotiate, but that is already happening in a bipartisan, bicameral fashion.
Yeah, and it doesn't take more than like 30 seconds of research to realize that, no, it ain't the Republicans that shut it down. It's the Republicans who voted to keep it open. They voted yes on the CR bill, which would fund the government. Democrats voted no. Anyway, Rep. Ted Lieu, here's the difference. Democrats have been showing up to work. Republicans have been on vacation. And I think yours truly, literally not happening. Lousy gaslighting. And shame on you. You're going to have to pay at the polls for what you're doing to Americans. Shame, shame. Yeah, I think so. Like I said, the people that are not getting benefits from the government right now, I bet they're overwhelmingly Democrat voters. So I'm sure that's not going to help them out very much. Although, I don't know, man. Like I said, I think they really have nothing else left to play. I think they're just going to jump on anything they possibly can and just blame Republicans no matter what they do, no matter what the damage is. Mike Lee, Obamacare poisoned our healthcare system. Absolutely. Naturally, Democrats think what we need is even more poison. Just say no. And Buck Sexton, some people are finally figuring out that Democrats made healthcare far worse and more expensive with Obamacare. Yeah. Especially if you're old enough to have had health insurance before Obamacare kicked in. You remember, compared to now, health insurance back then was just amazing. It was amazing insurance back then compared to now. Of course they did. Everything they touch is a disaster that they must lie about endlessly. Why would healthcare be different? It's not. No. Rep. Andy Biggs, the Biden crime family is corrupt through and through, and Joe Biden himself and members of his staff covered up Hunter's dirty business deals. There must be accountability for wrongdoers. Obviously, a segue. We're not on the shutdown at this point. Breaking: Joe Biden's team blocked CIA from distributing intel report on son Hunter's Ukraine business dealings. This is on justthenews.com. If you want to check that below, it'll be linked. Then Vice President Joe Biden's team intervened in February 2016 to prevent the CIA from disseminating an intelligence report to policymakers about the perceptions senior Ukrainian officials held about his son's business dealings, newly declassified memos show. The request that the intelligence community withhold the report from others in the U.S. government by Biden's national security advisor was extremely rare and unusual. Well, yeah, especially when it's his own son. Talk about a conflict of interest. A senior CIA official told Just the News. I just spoke with VP of NSA, and he would strongly prefer the report not be disseminated. The vice president's presidential daily briefer told the CIA, "Thanks for understanding." The report, reviewed by Just the News, compiled the reactions of senior Ukrainian government officials to the December 2015 visit of Vice President Biden to Kiev. In the aftermath of the country's Maidan Revolution and the Russian seizure of Crimea, Biden had been appointed President Barack Obama's point man to manage U.S. policy toward the fledgling pro-Western government. The document shows that the Ukrainian officials in the government of then President Petro Poroshenko were disappointed with the vice president's visit to their country for his lack of substantive discussions with their leader. Those same officials privately mused about the U.S. media's scrutiny on Hunter Biden's business dealings in Ukraine, the report shows. These officials viewed the alleged ties of the U.S. vice president's family to corruption in Ukraine as evidence of a double standard within the United States government towards matters of corruption and political power, the CIA relayed. The intelligence report also shows that the Ukrainian officials expressed bewilderment and disappointment about the vice president's visit because he did not engage in any of the expected discussions about substantive matters with Poroshenko or other senior officials. You can read the declassified document below. Oh, wow. Don't mind if I do. I'll link it at least. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I'll link it. It's in the description if you want to check it out. So, of course, a lot of it's redacted. It's 8 pages in total. So it's welcome to read it down below. And the vice president's December 2015 visit to Kiev has been the subject of much scrutiny surrounding Hunter Biden's business dealings with the Ukrainian energy company Burisma. It was on that trip that Vice President Biden decided to alter U.S. policy to call for Poroshenko to fire his chief prosecutor, Viktor Shokin. The vice president threatened to withhold a substantial U.S. loan guarantee if not. Yeah, and that was, it wasn't on that day, but Joe Biden later after his trip there was on a stage talking, and there were cameras there, and whoever he was talking to about that, he was bragging about it. He was like, pick up the phone. And, you know, if you don't do this, then you don't get the $1 billion. You know, not verbatim, but it was basically, you know, Joe Biden admitted to it. And not only did he admit it, he was bragging about it. At the time, Shokin was probing Burisma and its owner, Mykola Klevetsky, for corruption. His son Hunter had just officially joined the board of the company in May of 2014. Shortly before the vice president's trip, then ambassador to Ukraine, Jeffrey Pyatt, warned Biden's top advisors that the U.S. government considered Burisma corrupt. Pyatt later told his successor, Marie Yovanovitch, that he believed that Hunter Biden's presence on the Burisma board undercut the anti-corruption message that VP and we were advancing in Ukraine, echoing what Ukrainian officials were thinking, according to the CIA. Yet Biden's demands broke with State Department and European Union assessments that Shokin's progress on anti-corruption reforms at the prosecutor's office was sufficient to warrant new guarantees to the struggling Ukraine. Just the News reported in 2023. Following that reporting, fact-checkers revised their narrative and confirmed that the elder Biden called an audible aboard Air Force Two on his way to Ukraine, breaking with those official assessments and deciding to call for Shokin's ouster. The memos were brought to the attention of current CIA leadership following a review of the intelligence agency's databases that began in late 2024 under the prior administration. CIA officials determined that at the time the report was drafted, it met the threshold for dissemination to U.S. officials before the vice president's office intervened, a senior CIA official told Just the News. So it goes on for a bit longer. If you want to read the rest of it, it'll be linked below. But yeah, it's I probably have no surprise to anybody whatsoever that that the CIA was told to not hand out that intel report. No surprise, but at least it's good. You know, I guess better late than never. But you know, like, what are we going to do at this point? I guess investigate more. Let's see. From Attorney General Pamela Bondi, great work by U.S. Attorney Eseli and our federal agents to make this crucial arrest. The Justice Department will deliver justice for the Palisades fire and keep Californians safe, even if California leadership won't. This is from Acting U.S. Attorney Bill Eseli. Today, we are announcing the arrest of 29-year-old Jonathan Rinderknecht on a criminal complaint charging him with maliciously starting what became the Palisades fire in January. The complaint alleges that Rinderknecht started a fire in the Pacific Palisades on New Year's Day, a blaze that eventually turned into one of the most destructive fires in Los Angeles history, causing death and widespread destruction. Among the evidence that was collected from his digital devices was an image he generated on ChatGPT depicting a burning city, and that's what this is. ChatGPT, so he's making AI images of a city on fire before he set the fire. Anyway, while we cannot undo the damage and destruction that was done, we hope his arrest and the charges against him bring some measure of justice to the victims of this horrific tragedy. Rinderknecht's initial appearance is scheduled for today at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time in U.S. District Court in Orlando. Rinderknecht is presumed innocent until proven guilty. So I'll see what happened with this individual today if we can get an answer to it. Take a look and see what the results were. Sounds like it was probably something preliminary. Is he going to be held without bail? Did they set a bail? Yeah, I'd like to know how long he's looking at in prison. I would think life, but no, in California, probably not. He might get, maybe a year on probation or some shit. Might have to do some community service and fucking Goodwill or something. So anyway, he's been charged with maliciously starting California's deadly Palisades fire. Made his initial federal court appearance in Orlando today. Charges were read during the brief hearing. No plea entered. He's due back on Thursday for a detention hearing before extradition to California. So, yeah, sounds like, obviously he's in Florida right now, but probably once he gets back to California, wouldn't really surprise me if they really went way too easy on him. So anyway, there's the asshole right here. The dude that set the Palisades fire, that's the guy. Of course, presumed innocent until proven guilty. So I guess we can't exactly say he is the guy and that he is the one. But there's a pretty strong case for it because he's been placed under arrest for it. And from the New York Post, Spencer Pratt slams LA officials after feds finally confirmed Palisades fire was sparked by blaze that was never extinguished. And of course, on the New York Post. And we've got from Los Angeles, reality star Spencer Pratt, okay, New York Post, is calling for state and local officials to be held accountable for Palisades fire after federal prosecutors finally revealed Wednesday something many residents long suspected, that it was sparked by a blaze started days earlier that was never fully put out. Yeah, of course it was man-made. It wasn't climate change. The trees didn't just spontaneously combust into flames like the far leftists want you to believe, that's how all these fires in California started. It's all just spontaneous combustion from global warming and climate change. All right, so, quote, our lawyers months ago told the court what caused the Palisades fire, and today the Department of Justice has proven us right. It was a rekindle of the New Year's Eve Lachman fire, and wasn't properly contained by LA City fire, the former The Hills cast member who lost his house in the Palisades Inferno said on TikTok. Quote, the city left it to burn and the state left it to burn for nearly a week on their property, and now they're on the hook for the dangerous conditions that led to the destruction of my town. Told ya. And LA Mayor Karen Bass and California Governor Gavin Newsom were both lambasted for their leadership during the fire, as well as for failing to prevent it in the first place. The info, which was previously reported in the weeks after the January 7th Palisades fire, came out when federal prosecutors charged an ex-Uber driver, Jonathan Renderknecht, age 29, was setting the earlier Lachman fire on January 1st. That fire was quickly knocked down, but prosecutors said it came roaring back to life days later, eventually killing 12 people, destroying nearly 7,000 homes, and causing over $150 billion in damage. His arrest confirmed suspicions raised during the investigation into the cause of the blaze, which started at an overlook known as Skull Rock, located on the popular Temescal Ridge hiking trail in the upscale Pacific Coast Enclave. Investigators told the Los Angeles Times in January they believe the blaze may have had human origins, potentially ignited by fireworks. Well, what the fuck else is it gonna ignite from? I'm sure they weren't getting, rampant lightning strikes happening all over the place. What the fuck else could have caused it? I mean, look, maybe a down power line that still would have been man-made, still would have been human-caused. 9 months later, authorities now say Renderknecht maliciously set the blaze before fleeing the scene and calling 911 to report it. Julie Wagner, a former Pacific Palisades resident whose house also burned down in the wildfires, called the official response to the conflagration mismanaged. Yeah, that's an understatement. They had no fucking water in the freaking fire hydrants, and the large pool of water they had at the top of that mountain was completely empty. There was no water there, and that was the one explicit reason that pool of water was up there in the first place, at least as far as what I read. Anyway, quote, I would love for them to find out exactly what happened, but bottom line is it doesn't matter. It happened. There was a fire, and the bottom line is that it was mismanaged in addressing the fire. That's a fact, no matter who started it, she told the Post, raising questions about whether others might have been involved besides what's-his-face. Anyway, so it goes on a bit longer. They go into some more detail, and I will link that also. Looks like that's the only New York Post article that I got, so it should be pretty easy to find if you want to finish that. From Reuters, a 29-year-old man, Jonathan, once again, the name I cannot pronounce, was arrested for intentionally starting the Palisades fire in California and is facing up to 20 years in prison. So there's the prison length. And, I mean, obviously it's up to 20 years. It could be substantially less than that. But anyway, that'll be linked if you want to take a look at that. Uh-oh. Well, might be paywalled. I believe, was it Reuters last night? I don't think it was Reuters. I think it was a different publication that I was able to get around. Let me just see. So if you open up a private tab and you, like open incognito window if you use Chrome. Oh yeah, see, look, it looks like it's paywalling me over here too. Well, I got away with it yesterday, but I actually don't know if that was Reuters or not. But anyway, it could work for you. But anyway, they do have a video here, so I'll just play the clip.
While the Lockman fire burned, the defendant
that's
walked
what it's called,
up the same trail from earlier that
Not
night
Latchman.
to watch the fire and firefighters,
Can you tell
using
him
his
I'm from
iPhone
California?
to take short videos of the scene. Although firefighters suppressed the blaze, the fire continued to smolder and burn underground within the root structure of the dense vegetation. So that fire started on January 1st. And it smoldered underground for about a week until on January 7th, heavy winds caused this underground fire to surface and spread above ground, causing what became known as the Palisades Fire, one of the most destructive wildfires in Los Angeles city history. He was the only person in this location at the time this fire ignited. We have no other indication that any other person was there. There were no fireworks at the time. We have several cameras in the vicinity that are there designed to detect fires, and this fire was detected almost right away by those sensors. He is charged with starting a fire on January 1st, which is the fire that burned down the Palisades. It did take a week to reignite, but he is charged with starting the Palisades fire.
Well,
he
good,
started
he
it
should
on
be.
January 1st.
Yep. I mean, call it bad luck, call it horrific luck. But that's what happened. So he's got to be charged accordingly. I mean, somebody's got to pay for it. I mean, like he's obviously not going to literally pay for it, but I mean, he's got to pay for it through the justice system at least. So this is from the Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs, government agency. The United States condemns the attack on President Daniel Noboa Azkin, who was the president of Ecuador. Apparently, there was an attack on his motorcade. We stand with Ecuador as authorities investigate and ensure accountability and stand against all forms of political violence. So let me take a look and see if I could plug that in real quick to see. I mean, like, was he injured? I'm not sure. I wish they would have had a little bit more information about that, but let me just see. See, what I like about using Grok is you can put short at the end and it just gives you a short answer. Plus it gives sources. So if I want to push back against whatever it's saying, I can at least open up. See, there's 7 news sources. So October 7th, Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa's motorcade was attacked by around 500 protesters in a rural town while delivering humanitarian aid. Good grief. Amid ongoing indigenous demonstrations, Noboa escaped unharmed, but officials labeled it as an assassination attempt and act of terrorism. 5 suspects were arrested. So there you have it. The United States stands with him and stands with his administration. At least I'm assuming. All right. Breaking 911. Get out of my fucking shot. Video shows Rep. Katie Porter, Democrat of California, chastising a staffer in newly leaked video. Uh-oh.
You ready for stat number 2?
I am.
All right. $632. $632, which is how much you save in fuel and maintenance costs when you replace your traditional car with an EV, with an electric vehicle. So
oh my God, that's such lousy propaganda. That's such bullshit.
It is the best car that I have ever owned. I just plug it into the garage, 3-hole prong plug, and I never have to go to the gas station.
Oh my God, that's hilarious, dude. As if your electricity in your house is free. It's not fucking free. You fucking idiots.
That's awesome. And
oh my God, dude. People actually buy this shit.
Real money. And I know here at UCI, we have a National Fuel Center Research Center, and they're also doing work on how to make electric vehicles affordable, including for low and moderate income people.
2 words,
working
range
moms,
anxiety.
like me, people who really could benefit from an extra $632 in their pocket. And it's also not just the individual savings, but it's also the total savings for our.
Look, if you're going to buy a new EV, I would check the resale value, because if you buy a new EV and you decide you don't like it and you want to sell it after a year or two, you're going to be shocked by how much these things depreciate. Buy a used one if you have to buy one.
So I'm on the oversight committee, you might know, and that is where we did a study recently this fall in September. And what it showed is if we don't electrify our transportation sector, that we're going to lose more than 500,000 Californians dying prematurely to air pollution and other problems. And the state could lose. Get out of my fucking shot.
Oh, shit. Uh-oh.
That's actually incorrect. It's not that it's electric vehicles. It's that if we don't make the commitments under the Paris Climate Accord.
Okay. It does. Okay.
All right, hold on. I'm going to crank that up. See what she says.
That's actually incorrect. It's not that it's electric vehicles. It's that if we don't make the commitments under the Paris Climate Accord.
Okay. It does.
All right.
Okay.
I didn't quite hear what she said, but I turned it up for you.
Stay out of my shop. Okay.
Oh my God,
I'm
what a
start
bitch.
again with electric vehicles saving us money.
Perfect.
There you go. That's an unhinged Democrat for you. Trying to propagandize everybody with her low IQ rhetoric with regard to EVs. Where's all this electricity coming from, by the way? If they're going to electrify everybody in California, where's all this power coming from? Is it coming from solar panels? Like they're really going to do that with solar panels and wind? They're really going to get, like, how many people are in California that drive? Like what, like 30 million vehicles, 40 million vehicles on the road? They're all going to be electric? I mean, I got some questions as to where they're going to get all that electricity from, because they're not going to only get it from hydroelectric and whatever nuclear. I'm sure they probably got some nuclear facilities in California. But yeah, I mean, I'd have some serious questions about that, because from what I've learned, if they electrify every single vehicle on the road across the United States, we would need the power equivalent of 1,200 nuclear power plants in order to power just all of those vehicles. It's like 235 million vehicles. That it would require about 1,200 nuclear power plants worth of electricity to power the entire United States if we were to switch completely over to electric vehicles. And right now, with regard to nuclear power, we only have 54. Only 54 nuclear power plants. So anyway. All right, Daily Wire. Michael Knowles, liberal politician, said we need to castrate kids. And then Adam Freeland said, I don't think Pelosi said we need to cut their dicks off. Michael Knowles said, support trans children is a euphemism to mean we need to put them on cross-sex hormones and mutilate them. So let's hear this. Maybe.
Liberal politicians came out and said we need to castrate kids. And then
I don't think that's true.
You don't think that we castrate
I don't think.
kids?
I think that's.
You don't think we do the trans procedures on kids?
I don't think Pelosi said we need to cut their dicks off.
Said we need to support trans children. That is a euphemism to mean we need to put them on cross-sex hormones and in some cases mutilate
across the board, whether they're trans or not. It's
been coast to coast.
Weren't able.
Coast to coast. National politicians like Nancy Pelosi.
You're talking about something that is probably just a statistical insignificance, and you're
the
highlighting
2024
it.
election was
you're
run on that
highlighting
issue.
it. You're highlighting
it. It's not. It's a
You're
major
highlighting it
political
to vilify an entire group of people.
I'm not vilifying anyone.
Oh my God, dude, this dude is not going to come anywhere near to hanging with Michael Knowles. He's going to absolutely systematically destroy that dude. He is way, way out of his league. All right, that would be some popcorn content. That'd be fun to watch that one. All right, on Raw's Alerts, breaking, President Donald Trump has officially proposed the idea of placing his face on a new $250 bill. Well, with inflation and everything, thanks to Biden, I'm sure some of us would use a $250 bill. All right, so it's just whatever. It's no video. It's just saying breaking. I don't know, man. What do you think about it? Leave a comment if you're interested. I'll read the comment. I'll read your comment on the episode tomorrow if you want to mention anything about that, whether if you think that's a good idea or not. Probably most people are probably not going to end up using a $250 bill. I would argue using a $200 bill. I get the $250 because America's 250th birthday. You know, I get it. I understand it, but yeah, all right. Anyway, VA Secretary Doug Collins, the Department of Veterans Affairs team just broke the all-time record for benefits claims processed in a single year. It wasn't magic. It was leadership, focus, and hard work.
I'm told that you've also managed to deliver an all-time high number of disability claims. What did you do to turn things around so quickly?
Again, it's an old saying that what gets measured gets done. Mm-hmm. And so we just started measuring, we had measures and metrics here before. We said, but Why aren't we doing, more? Why aren't we putting this emphasis? Had over 3 million. We closed out the year with over 3 million claims processed. That's 2.4 million was the previous record. We shattered that by 600,000. But again, it goes to lowering the backlog. It goes to taking care of the claims coming in and making sure that we're doing something that should seem like common sense, but many times isn't common. And that is simply saying, what would the veteran need? What does the veteran need from the VA? If the VA did not have a veteran to take care of, we have no VA. And I think for too many times it's been used as a political pawn or political toy or political back and forth. But we're taking it very seriously, the charge to take care of our veterans. And I think it's showing in our workforce and showing in their commitment to making these happen.
All right. I'm told that and Secretary Collins said that the VA is already funded. It's been funded with regard to benefits and payouts and everything. Although some services are going to be affected by the shutdown, at least if you're in the VA and you're getting benefits, apparently that's paid out for, I think he said, for at least the next few years or something like that. So, all right. Anyway, Rep. Vern Buchanan, Sharpie just proved that the president's America First policies are bringing manufacturing home, protecting American jobs, and raising wages without raising costs. It's time to reopen the government and give manufacturers the certainty they need to invest in American workers. So yeah, it says that Sharpie found a way to make pens more cheaply by manufacturing them in the U.S. I thought they made Sharpies in Canada. I don't know why I thought that. Maybe I saw an episode of how it's made or something with regard to Sharpies. But all right. So, and finally, the last thing I have from Senate Republicans. Yesterday, Senate Republicans confirmed 107 more of the president's nominees. We've cleared the backlog, and we are getting the president's team in place. So it sounds like, I don't know if the backlog is completely done yet, but it looks like they're making fast progress on it. So I guess that's definitely, well, not I guess, it is a good thing. It's a really good thing that they're finally getting all that done, because he's been the president for the better part of a year at this point, and they're still trying to confirm his nominees. It's bullshit. So, all right, well, that's all I got. And if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world to me if you subscribe, and I'll drop a new episode every evening, Monday through Friday, covering the swamp and everyone living in it, the politicians, bureaucrats, agencies, and everything else. And I also post the daily episodes over on X too, so feel free to comment over there too if you'd like. And thank you very much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your night. God bless America.